Pahini Pandya, co-founder and CEO of Panakeia Technologies.
And I'm Pandu Raharja, co-founder and CTO of Panakeia. We are an early-stage startup building instrument-free precision cancer diagnosis. I guess the most important thing is just name say, right? We want to kind of have the business ready for fundraising. That includes, having a good demos, securing the IP, filing for patent if necessary, signing contract with partners and customers, have a strong or well-defined hiring pipeline, as well as a product roadmap in the next 6 to 12 months. And another thing that is also important is actually have a very well-defined division of team responsibilities. Usually one co-founder is going to talk with VCs, doing fundraising full time, and the other one should make sure that the company is actually running, have day-to-day life, business life done. And this is actually very, very critical.
Once you've done all that, you should definitely work on getting your investor story in order. So you need to plan your narrative. You also need to think about which team member will answer what questions. So for instance, in our case, Pandu took the questions on technology while I took the questions on market. We then went on to build an investor database. It helps to know what investors you're targeting, what their investment criteria is, and then helping assign priority levels for those investors based on the criteria. So for instance, if you're a company raising seed and you're deep tech, you want to focus on investors who specialize in that area. The likelihood of you getting investment from a Series A investor at that stage is very low. Once you've identified the investors, you want to figure out what are the routes to reaching those investors. That can be through a program or your networks. When you reach out to the investors, organize your first meetings in a well-defined timescale. So let's say reach out to all investors over a span of 1 to 2 weeks and try and organize investor meetings within the next few weeks, so that as your conversations progress, most of the investors are at the same stage of the decision-making process and you run an efficient process. So the investors typically want to see the founding story, the problem, the size of the problem, and what the current landscape in terms of solving that problem is. So essentially your competitors.
Mm-hmm. And also their interest is actually how you're trying to solve the problem. And going back to Pahini's statement about competitors, how are you differentiated, how are your solution differentiated? And they're also interested to, if you're a deep tech company, trying to understand what's your core technology, how well is it protected in terms of IP, in terms of freedom to operate, which means your freedom to actually use that technology in certain region, which is actually quite important. And also the team, who's going to build a solution, who's going to deliver a solution, etc. How are the market and partners, reacting to your solution, which is basically a function of traction, right? There are people who are interested in your solution. That means your solution actually is truly or solving the problem that they have.